Hi everyone, welcome back to another analysis video. Today I'm going to analyze everything that occurred in episode 9 of Higurashi Sotsu. And goodness, there's so much to talk about since we got a little bit of more answers this time. So first things first, let's begin. So the episode begins with a fragment of Minagoroshi where Teppei returns to Hinamizawa, assaults, and locks Satoko. As Satoko is watching this, she states that even though it was one of the worst fragments, this was the happiest fragment for her as she was able to have Rika all by herself. Ewa then comments that those who live in loops tend to see a change in what they value. In other words, what was once tragedy now is joy. And as Sarako continues looping, she continues losing herself and her own humanity. Ewa even remarks this fact by stating that Sadako is no longer human or Sadako. What Sadako says after this intrigued me. She says that despite that she lives in loops, she's still herself, which is clearly a lie. It makes me wonder if she's denying the fact that she's no longer Sadako or loves the person she has now become. So, we then continue on June 15, where Sadako fakes having a PTSD attack to call attention. This was a very sad and hard scene to take in the original, as you could see just how helpless Rika, Mion, Rena, and Keiji felt seeing Sadako in such a pitiful state. But now in Sotsu, it makes me angry seeing how Sadako is playing with people's emotions and feelings, knowing how deeply they care about her. We then see Sadako leaving the school and having a smirk on her face while her concerned friends are thinking of a way to help her. Before Sadako makes it back home, we see a softer side of Teppei trying to cook a meal for her to brighten up her day. Of course, she arrives in the nick of time to prevent him from burning the house. This scene is quite sad to see, since Teppei firmly believes Sadako's lies and just wants to live a peaceful life with her. However, one thing that caught my attention was how Teppei wrapped Sadako in a warm blanket after falling asleep on the kitchen table, only for her to wake up and see the blanket fall on the floor. When Sadako realizes this, she has this guilty expression on her face, which I haven't seen in forever. This makes me wonder something. If deep inside Sadako's heart knows what she's doing is wrong, could this be the remaining embers of Sadako's humanity? We then jump to June 16, where Keiji asks for his classmates to help his cause to save Sadako, and as this is going on, we see Teppei wondering what could he do to save Sadako. Seeing both sides trying to help Sadako is quite sad to witness, knowing that both are being lied to and manipulated. As Teppei is in town doing some shopping, he meets up with Ooishi, which Teppei drops his grocery bags and gets on his knees, begging him for help. I never would have imagined Teppei going so far to get on his knees and beg for help. This just shows how much he cares about Sadako. Ooishi, of course, decides to help. Sadako is quite surprised to see Teppei and Ooishi together, as she never expected for her uncle to believe her lies. With Ooishi here inside the house, Sadako puts some sleeping aids inside the tea to put Ooishi and Teppei to sleep, and this is where Sadako makes her move and begins the upcoming tragedy. She injects Ooishi with H173. Once they wake up, Ooishi promises to do anything in his power to help Teppei and leaves. And as he's walking around and reading his notes about the murders, he begins scratching his throat, which is a bad sign already. Due to Ooishi being quite suspicious of the village, especially of the Sonosaki family, he's worsening the symptoms and speeding up the stages of the Hinamizawa syndrome. He then meets up with Kumagai, but before he could tell him what he learned, he decides to take a walk around the village to check around and also ask questions to the residents. He even goes as far to check on the Sonosaki house. As he reaches the Furide shrine, he has an episode where he destroys a small shrine and relieves himself by the Tori shrine gate. The sad and gross thing about this is the fact that he passes the blame to Teppei, despite the fact that he promised to help him. As two residents began fixing the small shrine, they began concluding that the curse is going to hit the Hojo family. And boy, when they find out. As the episode concludes, we still have one more part left for Tatarikashi. This is going to be the last part of this arc, and we're finally going to get the biggest question answered. Who was the person inside the Hojo house? Was it really Teppei or was it Ooishi? Also, I wonder what's going to happen after the CWS rescues Satoko from Teppei. As you know, Ooishi heads there personally to rescue Satoko. I think I might be wrong, but I think this is what happened after seeing that scene of Teppei hitting Keiichi with a bat and Keiichi going L5 and beating him up. I believe that after Sadako leaves briefly, she goes to grab a bat and hits him on the head. But what about Keiichi seeing Teppei and beating him up? I believe that once Sadako hit him with the bat, Keiichi enters L5 and everything that happens inside that room is a hallucination. In a way, it's quite similar to Onikakushi. In the original, as you know, Keiichi was just so paranoid, and you know what happens after that. But there's something that still bothers me. I feel like I'm missing something. When Ooishi is at the festival, we see him with a bloodied bat, which makes me believe that he was inside the Hojo house. There's no other explanation. After all, when Keiichi wakes up, he can barely remember what happened that night. Also, we don't even hear about Teppei being a victim whatsoever. All we know that Ooishi shoots Mion and Shion and then bashes the bloodied bat on Rika's head. But then we see Sadako arriving at the scene with hardly any blood on her, and we don't even know how she gets killed. I believe that Ooishi shoots her on the spot. Honestly, I'm so excited for the next episode so we can finish this arc and start on Nekodamashi or Nekoakashi, which I believe that's going to be the name for the next arc. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I hope to see you for the next episode.